Hello! This is a response video to Jonto Hill's videos about the Kunai and Dead Ringer respectively. His videos criticize both the Kunai and the Deadringer for being way too powerful against good players due to their snowballing effect and the ability to fake your death being very confusing to newer players, but falling off against higher level players, making them completely useless if the team against you has any level of competence. So the question is, do his rebalances work to make it better for both low level and high level of playing in comparison to the stock knife and other unlocks? While I mostly agree with the Deadringer's rebalancing, I believe that his rebalances for the Kunai would lead to an undeserved death of a playstyle. Let's start with the Deadringer. He proposes a complete rework of how the Feign Death works, allowing you to cloak on demand with a Feign meter separate from your clone meter that charges completely independently from it. He also proposes that the cloak meter be given a faster drain rate so that it can't compete with stock quite as efficiently, while also the Feign meter would have the speed boost completely removed and also have a speed debuff upon decloaking on a Feign. And while I agree with most of this, I completely disagree with the idea of adding a speed debuff on a Feign Death. This is because he also suggests that whenever you decloak with the Deadringer, the cloak meter is drained completely. And I feel like if the cloak meter drains completely and you have a speed debuff, it is way too punishing if you end up decloaking. I get that he was trying to disincentivize Kunai users from just instantly decloaking with the Deadringer as soon as they feign death just for a resistance fade, but without the speed boost they aren't likely to actually get a good trick stab off, and if they do they should be rewarded for it since they did it without using the speed boost as a crutch. And if they fail their trick stab, then they just die anyway, and then they're being punished for their mistake to decloak early, like they should be with the Deadringer in its modern state, but aren't normally punished for. Otherwise, it's a great video, and I agree with basically everything else he has to say on the matter. His reasoning for nerfing, or reworking in this case, both the Kunai and the Deadringer are completely valid. I just think that his idea is a bit overtuned, and I think that that's understandable because a lot of people tend to go a bit overboard with buffs and nerfs, and it takes a lot of small counterbalances to make sure that something can compete with stock while still adhering to the playstyle it's meant for. I actually ended up making a source mod plugin for this rework idea. I showed it to him on his Discord server. He seems to like the way I implemented it, but we'll see. However, his nerfs to the Kunai are very harsh compared to the ones to the Deadringer because they completely ignore the playstyle that the Kunai was meant for. The Kunai is meant to be a trick stabbing knife. It was made for that playstyle, so it should be kept with that playstyle in mind. It is completely fine for that playstyle and that weapon to be, to a certain extent, worse than stock, just like how Demo Knight is much worse than stock Demo Man in the vast majority of scenarios. However, Jonto's rework idea of completely disabling the knife after one backstab, I agree with him when he says that sneaking around, causing paranoia, disrupting the enemy team should be the dominant playstyle for Spy, but I don't think it's fair to completely disconnect that part of the player base from a knife made for them just because its current version is unbalanced.
Upon backstab, healing will take effect as normal, but this will also make the knife unavailable for the next 10 seconds, in a similar way to the Spicicle, though the timer cannot be sped up by ammo packs. Essentially, this brings back more of the thought into target priority, since even if you're more likely to survive if you do get that kill, you can only kill one person.
What we actually need to do is create a version of the Kunai that can be used for trick stab plays while giving it a definite weakness that it never nullifies itself for. My suggestion for rebalancing the Kunai would be this. Give Spy a 15-point health bonus when he's using the knife. Make it so that he restores all of his base health on kill and let this overheal just like the half Sadaluchi. Give him a 0.5 second longer bleed time and remove his ability to disguise. This will never allow him to nullify his own downsides, because he will never be able to disguise, and if he tries to cloak and get away, you will be able to track him much easier, which means he has to rely on his cloaking skill a lot more in order to get away from bad moments. Not only would this make it viable in competitive, but it would also heavily balance it out in casual, because it essentially turns the spy into a sneaky, aggressive scout that has the ability to get health back on kill. The ability to get 210 HP just by killing someone with the kunai is a massive buff, considering that he's not below 100 HP anymore and is in fact at 140. However, it's balanced out by the fact that he is hard countered by Engineer now, and new players will have a much easier time catching on to his tricks, forcing him to rely on good cloak management, which is not something the kunai has to deal with right now. You can disguise as Scout, walk into the enemy team, and get away with it just because half the team is newly installed. But in this version of the Deadringer, if someone really wants to stop the kunai, they can go Engineer. They can do all of the techniques that you can do nowadays to deny the spy stabs. You can help your teammates learn how to counter spy because he can't disguise, which makes it a lot easier to track where he is, especially with the half-second delayed blink time that this rework has. My other main criticism would be that Jonto Hill's reworks don't take man versus machine into account. I think it's completely fair to take Spy and Man vs. Machine into account because Man vs. Machine is more popular than both 5CP and King of the Hill, both of which are the main formats in competitive sixes. So the fact that Man vs. Machine is more popular than them means we have to at least take Man vs. Machine a little bit into account there. But his rework for the Deadringer would make Spy almost unplayable in MVM. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, Spy's bad in MVM anyway, who cares? But he's not really. He's bad in 2 cities, which is, to be fair, the most popular tour, but on Gear Grinder, he is the meta. Specifically for killing the medium-sized robots in Manslaughter, and for killing the giant medics in the other 2 missions, because a demo man can't kill those giants as well because of the randomized robot spawns. However, as long as you keep these proposed Kunai and Deadringer reworks in casual and in casual alone, I'm fine with that. And his ideas for rebalancing the Kunai and Deadringer, even though I think they have flaws, if they were added into casual, it probably wouldn't honestly be that bad. But I do think that the Kunai one is heavily flawed. On a positive note, I will say that I did really enjoy watching those videos where he critiques the Deadringer and Kunai, and he's probably my favorite spy YouTuber right now, but I figured that I would put out my opinion on this because while they do have really good merit to them as balance ideas, I don't feel like it's a good idea to put these in casual as a whole, and especially not in Man vs. Machine. Anyways, thank you for listening to this, and I hope you have a nice day. Also, unrelated to the video, but as of right now, recording this, the fixed TF2 position has over 233,000 signatures. Please remember to go sign this, because this is our main way of retaliating against Valve. And I genuinely hope that we're able to fix this game soon, because right now it's just completely unplayable. Valve, get your shit together.